Okay, here we are again. Today we're going to be talking about reasoning in parallel lines. So we are really going to be focusing on the vocabulary that we talked about yesterday, which was corresponding angles, transversal, and alternate interior angles. We have to remember that a pair of lines, whether they're parallel or not, but most likely we're going to be talking about parallel lines, a pair of lines that are both cut by a transversal T. If the lines happen to be parallel, then that transversal is cutting those parallel lines at the same angle, which then creates different scenarios where the corresponding angles are now going to be congruent. So corresponding angles, if I said this angle here and this angle here, those are considered corresponding because they are both to the right of the green line and both of them are above the blue lines. The black ones that I'm going to draw here, these would be considered alternate interior angles because they are inside the parallel lines and they are on alternate sides, opposite sides of the transversal. They go on to state right here, again, that this symbol here means is parallel to. I believe we talked about that yesterday. So question number one, they're just really asking you to decide is A parallel to B? Well, if I look at A and B, they look like they are parallel lines, but I have to prove it since they are being cut by transversal T, and 59 here and this 59 here both appear to be to the left of the transversal and below line A and B, that appears that those are corresponding angles. So I would say, yes, A is parallel to B because the given angles are corresponding and congruent. And I'm using the symbol for congruent here, so just so that you know, that does mean congruent. So for number 2, it says for which value of x is line M, parallel to line N. So this time they have our parallel lines going up and down and the transversal going from left to right. So if I'm looking at the green line as my transversal, I notice that both the x and the 82 are above the parallel line, and they are both to the right of the blue line. So if this has to be parallel, by corresponding angles, x would have to be equal to 82 degrees. Okay, then there's just this little box on the bottom here that talks about deductive reasoning. It says the reasoning that you use to decide whether two lines are parallel based on knowing whether corresponding angles or alternate interior angles are congruent is called deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is a process of reasoning logically from given facts to a conclusion. So I think of like Sherlock Holmes. For question number 3, they are now asking if we can conclude that A is parallel to B. So A and B are our lines in question, and there is our transversal T. And if I notice that the two angles that were given to us, the 121 and the 122, they both appear to be interior angles, and they would have to be alternate interior angles because they're on opposite sides of the transversal. And since these two angles are not equivalent, I would say that A is not parallel to B. So I would say no, A is not parallel to B because the alternate, I'm going to use interior angles, are not congruent. So then again, for number 4, if they are telling us that these are our parallel lines, our transversal is right here, 76 is on the bottom, x is on the top, they're on opposite sides, so by alternate interior, it is 76 degrees. For this next one, we're going to go over one of these together. They're saying which congruence statements justify A being parallel to B or C being parallel to D. So if you notice, we have almost two sets of parallel lines. So we have to try to figure out what angles would then be congruent to each other based on the lines being parallel to help justify this. So the first one we're going to look at is angle 7 congruent to angle 12. And so I'm going to find angle 7 and I'm going to find angle 12. Don't do this on your paper, but I'm just going to highlight these for myself. And I see that the two lines that I've highlighted are A and B. And based on the A and B, 7 and 12 are inside the lines and on opposite sides of the transversal D. So it appears that that would help to justify that A is parallel to B. So I'd like you to go ahead and try the remaining 5 there and decide which one they belong with. Okay, please check over your answers. And as always, make sure that you ask me if you have any questions. Number 6 then is now saying which lines, if any, are parallel to each other. So I'm looking at this and I see that I could either have P and Q or M and N be parallel to each other. If I'm looking at P and Q, which are the blue lines, the only transversal that touches both P and Q would be this one that I'm going to highlight here as red. So the only angles that touch that transversal are angle 93 and 92. Those are both to the right of the red line and below the blue lines, so they should be corresponding angles. And if the corresponding angles are equal, then those lines will be parallel. And since 93 is not equal to 92, that won't work. So I know that P and Q are not parallel. So now if I look back at M and N, and I look at transversal P, that transversal touches both angle 93 and 93, and those appear to be alternate interior angles, and they are equal. So I would say that M is parallel to N. Okay, we will pick this up tomorrow. Again, ask any questions if you have any. Have a great night.